The war in Ukraine has impacted the globe in many ways, but one thing is for certain. The perception of war and how the average person views it has permanently changed.
Открыть огонь по команде. По команде. Я тебе дал мошенник. Дали откат. Плюсом МТЛБ. Осталось там. Разбитая приемка. Верхушки. Как принял меня прием. Видео, как принял тебя, принял. Не могу на лампаху докричаться. Я Буран, прием. Принял тебя, принял. Пытаешься, прием. Буран, иди домой. Лучше быть дезертиром, чем перегноем.
Throughout human history, the perception of war, in terms of the average person's viewpoint of it, has largely depended fully on how they got that information in the first place. From the stories of old of glory and romanticized warfare, through the reading simply through history books, to now, with Ukraine, the viewpoint of war and the perception of war is going to permanently change. I'm going to go over a few points to sort of solidify that theory. The true impact of war in the past, in terms of seeing it through the human eye, has largely depended fully on that person being there. You can hear stories, someone can tell you stories, even people that have been there, but nothing truly impacts the human spirit, the human mind, and the human emotion more than truly going through it. Either being someone simply caught in the crossfire of battle in an urban area, to an invading army coming across your farm, to being a soldier out on the front lines. The true impact, the insanity of combat, and the horrors of warfare, at least in terms of the human eye and the human mind and the emotion, largely depended in the past on them being there. And that is not at all to downplay the eyewitness reports from those who fought in war, those who survived war as a civilian, or those who survived absolute atrocities during war itself. Not at all. But when someone tells you a story, the impact that that story is going to have on you largely depends on their amount of detail that they may or may not want to give you, coupled with your own imagination. To recreate that whole story in your mind, to recreate the horrors of war, something that you've never experienced before in your life, it becomes difficult. It's something that you truly cannot fully connect with the person that is telling you that story. And again, that's not to be disrespectful. That is simple human psychology. We can only connect when it comes to stories of that nature when we've truly experienced it in our own lives. And even as a reenactor, we try to add emotion and try to generate that emotional response in our events, at our recreations of certain battles. And in some parts, that's done quite well. In other parts, not so much. It may look cheesy, but the point's still there. The danger, the chaos, all that stuff, it's not there. This is just a group of people shooting blanks at each other. It's another way of telling a story, and in large part, the public needing to use their imagination to think about the danger, the chaos, the emotion, the loss of life that's going on before their eyes. Instead, and not to blame the public, instead, they tend to kind of giggle. It's more entertainment to them. They're amused. And in large part, why is that? Simply because they've never experienced the chaos of combat. They've never experienced a life or death situation. They've never experienced something that is just looming over them in the uncertainty of the next moment. And honestly, the connection just simply isn't there. Now, me personally, I've never experienced combat. I've never served in the military. However, through my occupation, I've seen the human body in various conditions that the average person shouldn't have to look at. I've seen the impact of loss of life with those loved ones and so forth. Now, just imagine that in my mind, but multiply that by a lot. And it really starts to weigh on the absolute just chaos of warfare. human body parts strewn around, loss of life, families destroyed, homes completely shattered. So, with the war in Ukraine, how is that going to change the perception of you, the average person? Now, me being an American, war has been, or at least conflicts that we've been involved in, has dominated more than half of my life. Be it peacekeeping operations, the wars in the Middle East, to all the conflicts post 9/11. But even then, seeing footage of warfare tended to be what we saw on the news. And of course, that was always heavily censored. Now, as the internet matured more and more, you started to be able to find websites, and for those that were curious and knew what websites to go to, you could see some absolute atrocious things, just terrible things. And for the large part, when it came to the average person, you didn't see that kind of stuff. You weren't looking for that stuff, you weren't hunting for it, and honestly, in the early ages of the internet, you probably didn't have access to it just yet. But as time has gone, the internet has expanded, and more people have connection to it. And the connection to it rests in the palm of their hand. But also within the palm of their hand is something that we've come to really sort of take for granted now, but has a very large impact of being able to bring war to your home. The camera on the phone. All of the footage we've been seeing, all of this just chaos we've been seeing in Ukraine, it's something new in terms of us as humans being able to see the stuff that's going on thousands and thousands of miles away, depending on where you're at. Before, you would only read about it. You'd only see what the news told you. But now the internet, Facebook, social media, YouTube, Reddit, all that type of stuff, all of this chaos, this destruction, this loss of life is available to you up front in absolute uncensored detail. And with that comes near instantaneous viewers. All it takes is for you to film something going on. And in Ukraine, all it takes is for them to film something that's going on. They upload it, and it's instantly available across the globe. People are able to watch what's going on there nearly in real time, and in some cases in real time. Me and some buddies at the absolute beginning of this war were pulling up webcams across various Ukrainian cities and watching the shelling unfold live. The nuclear power plant that was attacked a few weeks ago, we had a webcam up. Never would I think in my life, years before this, that I would be able to pull up a webcam and watch a battle at a nuclear power plant unfold in real time in my own home. So this brings war directly to your home. And in the future, when it comes to people learning about this war and whatever else follows from it, it's not going to come from history books. It's not going to come from exactly stories being told. That's going to take place because human beings, we always tell our stories. But in large part, they'll be able to pull it up and watch it happen. So, what sort of impact does that have in our perception of war and the average person? What type of consequences could be in regards to that? And in my opinion, the consequences are going to be a double-edged sword. The good side of that sword is obviously in terms of the fundraising that has gone towards helping the Ukrainian people, the awareness of the struggles, the awareness of the loss of life, the awareness of just everything that's going on over there, and the drive for people to help. That has been one of the most amazing things seen out of this whole thing. And it comes largely because people are able to instantly see what's going on, uncensored, unedited. There's not time for someone to look through it. They're seeing what's going on with their own eyes, and they're looking at that and going, I need to do something. Either sending some money to a charity, to a fund, something. There's even people that are streaming, and I wish I could do it, but I don't have the subscriptions to do YouTube Gives or whatever. But there's people that are doing, through live streams, doing fundraisers through YouTube and sending thousands of dollars to help the people of Ukraine, and that is just an amazing thing, in my opinion. And probably one of the only good things that would come out of this situation. Now, the other thing that worries me, and this is the other side of that double edged sword, is it may desensitize some people. As people watch more and more footage of loss of life, they do tend to become desensitized towards it. And it may give people a sort of jaded outlook to war. However, I kind of tend to think that that would be a limited sort of thing. I think people now are really going to see that, war is absolute hell. Innocent people in situations like this, the whole loss of life is unnecessary. And while we may think seeing military vehicles and equipment in use, and in large part in terms of amusement, or thinking that it's cool to see that, it has to dawn upon us that the footage that we're watching and the situations that we're seeing unfold nearly instantly are all real world, as it happens, loss of life. And truthfully, I hope it does not desensitize people. I hope that people continue to look at this and say, this is going on. People are dying. And in the future, we need to learn how to avoid this. And while there have been plenty of wars and conflicts that have existed during the time of the internet, during the times that we've even had cameras on our phones, it has not really been to this scale. And this is one of the largest conventional wars that we've seen in our lifetime. So, the future of this is quite clear to me. War is going to be instantaneous in terms of viewing it. It's going to be in your face. Information is going to flow nearly endlessly. Some of that information may be misinformation, some of it may be the quote-unquote fake news, but a large part of the human suffering, the boots on the ground, what's going on the surface, you will be able to see nearly instantly. So our viewership of war, our experiences as the average person, have permanently changed because of Ukraine and what's going on there. So that's all I have for you. I hope to make some more content involving the conflict. I know some people like the other video, and I kind of want to dive into information, theories, and thoughts that go beyond what's been heavily covered, and that's the battles and all that type of stuff. I do like talking about the battles, I do like talking about the equipment and all that type of stuff, and vehicles and all that, but in terms of my content and what I want to cover, I kind of want to cover the background stuff. I'm not opposed to covering some other stuff. I may do some equipment type stuff, or vehicles, or go over certain things in the future, but for now this is what I'm comfortable in doing. So to everyone out there, be safe, have a good one, thanks for watching.